All right, everybody. I'm declaring for the second Tuesday in a row. T-shirt Tuesday. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't dress up for y'all. But seeing how I built a studio in my house, I'm going with the T-shirt. How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Real Kipper at Noon show. Giddy up. We are starting. Now, the real playoffs? Yes. We're down to 16. We eliminated 8, including the New York Rangers, who went from feeling a little down to feeling really, really good, and for good reason. So we got a terrific show for you today. We've tucked away Doug MacLean for the day, but I will tell you, in his place, guest co-hosting today will be someone that you've known for over 25 years in your homes, and that is Darren Pang, one of the top broadcasters in the country, in the world, when it comes to NHL hockey. You're going to absolutely love him. We've got a bit of a history going back. We've known each other for over 20 years and got a chance to really work together for the first time in Vancouver in 2010. And I will share something with you. At the end of the interview, keep an eye on some never before footage. You never heard before, never seen before, but myself, George Stroumboulopoulos, Elliot Friedman. All right, everybody, the legendary Darren Panger, pulled a pretty good prank on him. And it is funny. It's hilarious. So keep an eye on that. And of course, we're going to go through all the series with Panger, including a team that he knows best, the St. Louis Blues. Are they ready? Are they prepared? Are they one of those teams like the Boston Bruins when we're sitting there going, they should have had a better week and a half. It should have been better the last 2 weeks. What's going on? Are they playing possum? Are they not into it? Are some of the most experienced legs now feeling a little tired? Is there fatigue? What's going on? So we'll get into that as well. But as far as Doug MacLean, we'll give him the day off. Of course, it's important for Doug that you, the viewer, are watching and liking him. So he asked me if I could just pause for a split second and you all hit your like button. Go ahead. I'll wait. Oh, thanks. Thanks a lot. And it's not for me. That's not for me. That's for Doug. Doug's, who's that actress? Remember that actress? She won the Oscar and she got up there. Sally Field. Yes. Doug's a lot like Sally Field, where he just has to get up and say, you like me. You really, really like me. That's Doug. That's why the like button's so important. So we appreciate all your support and your comments. Keep them coming. We mentioned last night the conclusion of the lottery show, where we ended up with 8 teams eligible at 12.5% chances of winning the sweepstakes for Alexis Lafreniere. And did you watch that drama? Did you love it? I liked it. I thought it was really cool. And I don't know whether or not the NHL really planned on this being so dramatic, but it was. And I don't know who had the footage after where they slow motioned what appears to be the Toronto Maple Leaf ping pong ball. And it's up there. And someone mentioned that it was like John Tavares hitting the goalpost where it just goes up. And wow, the Ranger ping pong ball slides right in there and wins the whole darn thing. And you're sitting there going, could the Leafs have a more brutal 3 days in the history of any organization? You don't advance, and then you turn around after a historic win the night before the final loss, and then you lose a chance at a franchise player. Wow. And I heard you all, of course, you follow social media, you hear it all. The fix was in. It's rigged. The league wanted the New York Rangers. End of story. Weighted ball. Yada, yada, yada. Come on. Do you really believe that? Not a chance that happened. That would be the ultimate embarrassment for the league if that was true and they got caught somehow. That they would never do that. So let's just end that for a second. And if there's anything that really should prove the point that it wasn't rigged, go back to what, February 8th, 2018, and the Rangers, Glenn Sather, general manager Jeff Gorton, put out that press release explaining to Ranger fans that the days of signing Theo Fleury, the days of Bobby Holik at what, $50 million at free agency are over. Over. And this is while the season's going on. This is while we're going into a trade deadline that they are talking about now, trading assets, and they're going to build within. They're going to judge speed, skill, character, and we're all going to do it slow and steady. Now, some organizations you thought could pull that off because they're smaller markets. There's less pressure. But we're talking about the New York Rangers. I thought at the time they're crazy. The fans would sit there and go, I'm making $3 million on Wall Street. I got my season tickets. I want to win now. I want it. That didn't happen. Nobody went crazy. Nobody said that we're not willing to wait. They all waited. They all waited. And good on them, because it really set it up where they didn't feel the pressure to have to go and sign huge contracts for unrestricted free agents. And I don't know, can you even put Panarin at that? Because we knew Panarin last year would have made more money somewhere else. But Panarin really wanted to go to the New York Rangers. So while he did terrific on a huge deal, but Rangers didn't have to blow their brains out on it. They didn't have to overspend. So they're still in the game without overspending. And now when you look at their prospects and you look at the net coming out, Shesterkin, we all believe is a bona fide number one goaltender. Could he hit levels of Lundqvist? Remains to be seen. But does he have a chance? Absolutely. Rangers got a gift last year. We think a great player. Maybe people thought that they were going to get a Yager type of player this as early as this year. No, it's not going to happen. And we look at Lafreniere and we sit there and go, hey, he's going to be a top line guy. There's no question. There's everything. There's a 20-foot or 200-foot game. There's the offense. There's the character. There's the compete. He's going to be a star. But is he going to come in right away and be a star? Not sure. You know, it takes a while for some of these guys. Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, Capo, pretty good examples. Skilled up to here. But as far as being ready to contribute, not so sure. But it looks amazing for the New York Rangers. And congratulations on winning fair and square. All right, so we mentioned Darren Pang. He's going to come up. It's going to be terrific. He's going to help us tee up the first official round of the playoffs. Hard to believe that the two hub cities, the hosts, Edmonton and Toronto, are out. A lot of people may be a little happy on that because, let's face it, when you got star players like McDavid and Austin Matthews, and you're not fans of the Leafs or Edmonton, yeah, you like it. You like seeing them knocked out. But now you got to wonder about the Edmonton Oilers here. And you know, the other issue with those teams were the preferential treatment that everybody said that they would have. The edge. It's an edge. You're still playing in your own building. I know it's dressed up a little different. The seats are covered, the video scoreboards, the stages, the lights, but it's still your building. And then there's a whole thing about the dressing rooms. How often will they have them? And is that an advantage? Well, don't have to worry about it now. 16 teams. Don't have to worry about the Oilers. Now, if you're the Oilers now and you're watching and you know that the conference final and the Stanley Cup final will be in their home arena, you got to wonder, how's that going to make them feel? You kind of envision the Stanley Cup in your building being with your team. How about this one? Has anyone thought of this? That they're going to crown a Stanley Cup champion, and then they're going to take that cup and they're going to go into the Edmonton Oilers dressing room and celebrate. How weird is that? Come on. Nobody really wants to see another team in their own dressing room. I know what a dressing room means to an NHL team. It's your bat cave. That's it. Only an exclusive group are allowed in there. And then the media is on the clock the moment they get in. And when that clock's over, out, get out, out. That's all they scream, out. Everybody loves their dressing room. That's going to be a weird one for the Edmonton Oilers. Watching teams celebrate, pour champagne in that thing, drink out of it, take pictures in their room forever. Look at all those great Oiler teams in the past. How many great shots of their dressing room in there. That'll be a little weird. Okay, I promised you Darren Pang. We said on the Real Kipper at Noon show, we're going to have some great guests, character guys. There is nobody that is better, funnier for me. Sometimes I even look at him and I break out laughing. But this guy's got a wonderful spirit. Of course, I got a chance to watch his work firsthand during the Stanley Cup final last year, Boston, St. Louis. He does a terrific job for Fox West in St. Louis, teeing up the Blues. We'll see where the Blues are. We'll ask him. But you're going to enjoy this. And like I said, stick around at the end of it and make sure that you're in a good position where you could, when you start laughing, don't hit anybody. Don't fall off a chair. Just make sure you got pillows around you because pretty funny one. All right, Darren Pang, everybody. Enjoy. All right, everybody. The legendary Darren Pang. Panger, I built you up like crazy for all the Real Kipper at Noon fans here. So I know you won't disappoint. And I will say this, over the course of 21 years, Panger, I've worked with a lot of broadcasters. There's very few that can just make me laugh just looking at them. And that's you.
Is that because I've got big ears and I'm bald?
I don't know what it is. I have no idea. But we got a chance to really work together for the first time at the Vancouver games. And you've covered a lot of games from Nagano right through. But I had that one special time with you, James Duthie, Bob McKenzie, of course. And I got to tell you, you saved me during those Olympic coverages, buddy.
Kipper, you're too kind. I think we've had a natural chemistry. I think both of us kind of got to this business a little bit in the harder way. I mean, neither one of us, superstars and be given anything. We had to kind of grind through things. And
oh my gosh!
And that's what I've loved about this part of the second part of the career, Kipper, because the stories are great. The minor league stories are great. The bad coaches that we've had, the good coaches that we've had. You were lucky enough to be part of a Stanley Cup championship, which we all wanted to be part of. We both had Mike Keenan as coaches. Somehow you didn't lose your hair. I did. Not sure how that happened. He only pulled me 13 times one year. So I that's where probably all went to one time. But I think, you know what, Kipper, that year in 2010, I remember the phone call I got. It was from TSN, and it was one of those magical calls where you're like, the Olympics in Vancouver, working for Canada. I've been doing some work on the side. I know that you know that with Steve Yzerman running Team Canada in 2010 and 2014.
Yeah.
He's not a real big goalie coach guy, and he's always kind of leaned on me for advice on goalies. And we got to kind of talking about visiting goalies and doing up the kind of the pro scouting of it all, basically just analyzing the opposition goaltenders, getting the book going. And I'm thinking to myself, I get a chance to go to Vancouver and work these games with Kipper and with Bobby. And I've got the magical book right there of all the goalies that are there. And I get to kind of live and die with every goal or every play that goes on against Canada with Steve being the manager. What a great opportunity. It's absolutely one of my most favorite times. Vancouver was beautiful. That walk for us from our hotel to the Tim Hortons in the morning, and the way the people were in Vancouver were phenomenal. And then obviously the ultimate, winning that in overtime, was something else. And then afterward, just the relief of it all, I think, was really great. Huh, Kipper?
One of my best memories,
Yeah,
Panger, is 2010 Olympics. And I don't know whether you had the luxury of knowing what you were getting into. I didn't know until we actually got there that we were going to work every game of every second throughout the tournament. I don't know what the final tally was in terms of the number of games that we did, maybe 50 or 60 in 20 days. It was off the charts. Uniforms were starting to look like the same color to me. I had no idea. Did you have any idea at the time what kind of schedule we were looking at?
Well, it was the same thing happened with me in 1998, and it was a little less then. But CBS had called, and my agent said to me, "Would you want to go to Nagano?" Would I want to go to Nagano? Of course, I'd want to go to Nagano. That'd be unbelievable. And then they work out this pay, and I'm working for ESPN at the time. I've got to get ESPN to sign off on it, and that actually wasn't very easy, to be honest with you. And I'll tell you a story about it in a second, but no, you know what? I'll forget about the story. So I'll tell you right now. But at the very end, in order for me to work for CBS, and I wasn't even the main guy, Bill Clement's the main guy at ESPN, but they still wanted me to, at the very end of it, they had to do a credit, and Darren Pang, courtesy of ESPN, at the very end, that roll credit thing at the very end. So it was kind of a neat thing. I'm like, wow, this is really cool. I get there, and JD and I are working together, and I believe Sean McDonough was doing the play-by-play because Doc Emmerich or somebody they couldn't be there, and I just remember being exhausted after day 2. Now, Kipper, you know me, my energy level at night is really good, really good,
really good.
The red wine gets flowing a little bit, and then the next day comes along, and now you're like, oh man, we got to do this again, like another 2 games a day, and then another 2 games a day. And then, so anyways, it turns out I was a little prepared for it. Then I went to Salt Lake in 2002, and then I was really prepared for it then. But I was the sideline reporter for the games, and I remember looking over. Bill Clement was doing the analyzing like we were. He was doing it for NBC, and they were there the whole time. So I think I got a good break in those 2. We didn't have to be there all the time, and if we did, we could be watching the game, from the stands to get some notes and whatever. But when we did it, it was like, what was our games? 12, 4, and 8?
Yes.
So, huh?
Yeah.
12,
exactly.
4, and 8 every day. So we had to be there by 9. So we're walking to Tim Hortons by 8:30, and get there. You got the foggy eyes going, looking for the best coffee possible at Tim Hortons, and then grind through it. And then
oh my gosh!
By 4 o'clock, we were bagged.
I had no idea what 5-hour energy was, but you became my pusher man on 5-hour energy. You'd look at me and I'd be like this, and you're like, man. Here, take one of these. I'm like, what? I need all the help I can get, Panger.
Yeah. What, Chipper, energy so levels and energy level and organization, because when you start seeing Latvia and Norway and
the Zuccarello,
we hung on to Matt Zuccarello like
no tomorrow,
like we would have with Gretzka down the stretch. It was
the
great.
Zookster, buddy. Yeah, the Zookster.
I tell you what, Zook gave us some life, and you know what? He still does. Every time I see him, I still think of those the Olympics of 2010 and how hard he played and how good Norway was. That was awesome.
I look at you, Panger, and the most we have in common was we were undrafted.
Yeah.
And we both were desperate need of a job when we retired. Did you always know that you were going to be this guy that could do this for the next 30 years? I didn't.
No chance. When Kipper, when I was playing my last 2 years of playing Major A, I was drafted by the Belleville Bulls when they were an expansion team. And then I was traded to my hometown of Ottawa in my next year. Luckily, my last year junior, we won the Memorial Cup. But during that year, there was a cable show in Ottawa, and they'd always bring me on to do this cable show. So I was kind of thinking, I really like this broadcast thing. So I figured at some point maybe I'd be a radio guy or whatever. Then my second year of pro, I was playing in Saginaw. And every Friday morning, Kipper, I got up at 8 o'clock somehow. Sometimes I was late. And I would get to the studio and they'd have me in for an hour in a call-in show, and I'd play some tunes, and I was like, this is great. Then 9 o'clock ended and I raced to the rink. We had 10 o'clock practice, and that was just every Friday morning. So I think that they kind of gave me a little bit of maybe, I don't know, something to look forward to, And then when I actually, Kipper, when I tore my ACL, there was a producer in Chicago, Lisa Seltzer's her name, and she just recently retired, but she was
I worked with Lisa.
You did. So the
Yes.
producer director, she was the only one in the NHL. You talk about a courageous girl. And she had Pat Foley and Dale Talent, and she produced and directed. And so she was so good with me. And she's like, I'm going to ask Bob Pulford if you can do some college hockey games while you're rehabbing your ACL. So she pushed me to do everything. I was flying to Lake Superior, and I was doing games for the UIC Flames and Bowling Green, and you name it. And now I'm really liking it. Yeah. But I made my comeback, and then I got hurt again, and then I jumped right into it. So I think I was probably thinking of it more than you were, maybe because of my ACL injury, maybe because of the fact that, especially when Keenan started pulling me so many times, I was starting to lose, honestly, I was starting to lose my passion for the game, which I've often said this, and I think I told Mike this one time later on in life. I said, no one ever sucked the life out of me, but you did. Like that, and that's, I'm not here to get deep on Mike, because I had this conversation with him, but that's a hard thing to do, because I love the game of hockey. But man, when you keep getting pulled, and you just feel so terrible about yourself, and you feel like you're letting everybody down, you're like, maybe the next step is a good step. So I think it was probably right for me. It was probably good for me to get out of it the way I got out of it, and then got into another career when I did.
And Michael make the argument that I made you stronger. I helped Brian Leach win a Conn Smythe. But there are others that didn't quite make it over the line, right, with Mike? Yeah,
I mean, I would have liked another opportunity, Kipper, and I think a lot of players say the same thing. I mean, health, I believe that if I rebounded from that torn ACL and didn't injure it again, I believe later in life, I believe he would have been a guy to pick me up and, and bring me to whatever team. I do, because I think that's what he liked. All my buddies, Brian, same guys, Brian Noonan and Trent Yanni and Mike Hudson and Greg Gilbert and Steve Larmer. I remember one game in Winnipeg. In Winnipeg, Larms and Eddie Belfour. Eddie Belfour started, not a bad goalie, Hall of Famer. Yeah. Larms should be a Hall of Famer. Yeah. If somebody asked me my vote, I'd say Steve Larmer's a Hall of Famer. But in between periods, because the rooms in the old Winnipeg arena were so, you could hear everybody. And I think Keenan was trying to let us hear what he was saying. But I remember him saying, because I didn't start the first period, Belfour gave up 3 or 4, and I replaced him. And he said, somebody get that effing Belfour and Larmer out of here. They can't play. They're no, it was one of those kind of rants. And sure enough, Eddie Belfour became a great goalie for Mike, and Larms ended up winning the Stanley Cup with you in New York with Larms. So, but those, I think that when you look back at it, it'd be easier to go back at it the second time.
Without
you know what to expect. Yeah.
Without a doubt. And, you just mentioned a while ago that I was fortunate enough to win a Stanley Cup as a player, as a small piece to a very big puzzle. In many ways, Darren, you got to do the same thing this time as a broadcaster with St. Louis. Very fortunate to cover the Stanley Cup Finals myself for Hockey Night in Canada last season. And I got to watch you on a daily basis, work for Fox, and the impact that you have on a community was phenomenal for me to watch. And just talk a little bit about that experience of being a broadcaster and watching a great organization like St. Louis now experience something for the first time.
You know what, Kipper? Last year was the most fun I've ever had. It's hard to make it like a such a black and white line when you're talking about something, because I've had so much fun in my career. But I never thought, being a broadcaster locally and having the team in the Stanley Cup final, the fun I had was all my friends that were there. Yourself, we played golf a couple of times.
Yes, we did.
We
Ray
brought
Ferraro.
Catherine. Yes, with Ray Ferraro over at Glen Echo. We brought Catherine Tappan
from
over
NBC Sports.
I have a Belle Reeve, and I had dinners with so many great people. I remember bringing together Bob McKenzie and the TSN guys. We went downtown. I remember, you and I went somewhere, and it was everywhere you went. It was less about, I hate to say this, it was less about hockey, but for me, it was more about the friendships. As I looked around and I said, boy, I did work for that company and that company and that company, and NHL Network was there, and I was doing some work for them, and I'm thinking, this is what it's all about. It was kind of like being a social ambassador or director in a final. And I said, I loved it. I loved every second of it. And then obviously Game 6 at home. And Kipper, you and I talked an awful lot, because I know your job's tough to try to get, different themes and different stuff there. And I remember telling you at one point, I remember saying, Kipper, if you see first man in, second man quick, third man high, they're in great shape. If you see sustained pressure enough, they're in great shape, because that's their strength. And if they're off that game, it'll be a little bit of an iffy game. And sure enough, Game 6 comes around. The whole city of St. Louis is ready for a party. And Bruce Cassidy, I'll tell you a story I haven't told many people, if at all. We're getting ready for our post-game hit. And we only do, I think we have to wait for all the nationals to get off the air. Bernie Federko and I are waiting at the side of the hallway downstairs. And Bruce Cassidy's been a longtime friend of mine. We won a Memorial Cup together. We played on 5 different teams together. We won a Memorial Cup together. We won a Turner Cup together. And when he was recalled in the NHL for 1 month while I was there, I won the Rookie of the Month. I mean, this guy's my magical, mystery man. I got to tell you, Bruce Cassidy's the best guy ever. But he's so calm under fire. Who would do this? It was 7 minutes after they won Game 6. And I'm about to do my hit, and I hear this beep, and I get this text. And all it said from Bruce Cassidy was, looks like Gloria's on hold. and Bruce always ends it with, "Hey chum," and I think it said, "Hey chum, looks like Gloria's on hold." It was just it was actually funny comment.
He's got a great sense of humor, and I remember trying to get just 2 minutes of his time. All I wanted was 2 minutes of his time in St. Louis to get it, something, just a quick thought that I could carry on to Hockey Night in Canada.
Something different.
You know what we ended up talking about? We talked about Mike Hudson and Bruce Cassidy emptying out their waterbed over a balcony. And it started flowing like it was Niagara Falls, and the whole thing fell out of the window trying to empty it. And it's like he's telling me this story as if it's the most important thing to say at that moment, and not trying to win a Stanley Cup.
That's unbelievable.
But he's got a great sense of humor.
Well, he does, and I'll throw this at you too. The one game, I can't remember which game it was. I said after the game, because I live real close to the Ritz where they were staying. And so he said, after the game, come over to the Ritz and we'll have a glass of wine, chum. And I said, all right. So the game didn't go their way. And so I said, hey, Brucey, I understand. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, I'm sitting here with Cam Neely and it was Charlie Jacobs and like their whole staff. And he goes, we're all waiting for you here. And I'm like, then I was like, okay, those post-game scrums afterwards. God forbid for some people, it's the end of the world and your whole social life and friendship ends. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I understand that part of it. But there he is. He's like, I've got the bottle of wine in your glass right here, chum. You're sitting right beside. Come on, let's go. And that was it. And I'm like, you're the best. He's just one of the all-time best.
They're not dumb. They know you're a top analyst, national Olympic analyst, and they wanted your thoughts, man, on St. Louis and how do we beat them. That's what they were doing.
I thought they knew that I liked red wine.
That both.
And listen, with all the goals that Cam Neely scored on me, I hope that he picked that one up.
Oh
He had
gosh.
he had to buy one of them
Oh,
for me. I mean,
100%.
I bet he scored 4 goals on me one game.
We'd switch our broadcasting salaries for president salaries, wouldn't we?
Oh, wow. That
Hey.
would be good, huh? Yeah,
Okay,
that would be
listen,
good.
we know leading up to your top analyst work in the
Mm-hmm.
National Hockey League, we got to start getting into this. I want to start with your St. Louis Blues or the team that you cover
Mm-hmm.
and ask you, which team are we going to see? The Stanley Cup team that was so hungry last year, or this one that I'm not sure? I'm not sure what we're going to see. And I think in that aspect, maybe Vancouver can take advantage of a team that is still trying to find themselves. Can I
Yeah,
honestly
yeah,
say
absolutely.
that as the
Yeah,
champions?
I would think so, and I think what we saw in the exhibition, which totally understand an exhibition. Everybody just wants to dip their feet in the water and not get hurt, and everybody played that game. But then every time I saw something really good in the round robin, it was like, whoa, what happened there? And John Kelly and I and Bernie Frederick, we were in our studio here calling the games in St. Louis, and we're like, man, what's going on here? It'd be one good period, and then it'd be a period off, and then it'd be 3 games the Blues had a lead. Kipper, during the regular season, they never lost a game when leading after two. They,
Wow.
they
Yeah,
and
the door
so
gets shut.
yeah, it just gets. That's all she wrote. The shutdown pair of Jay Bomeister and obviously Pareko. They would just nail it down. You've got the Sundqvist and Steen and Barbashev line nailing things down, and Ryan O'Reilly. But anyway, what I've seen is just a mixed bag. I've seen a team sometimes that looks like the Stanley Cup champions, and I've seen a team at times that just looks like a team that's like, okay, let's get to the real thing here. So I do know one thing, Kipper. I went back on the Vancouver Canucks series. I'm going to say even the last couple of years, and there was a point when Quinn Hughes joined the team, not the previous year, at the very end of the year, and they had a power play in St. Louis. It was the last game of the year, I believe it was, and the puck went from Quinn Hughes to Brock Besser to Pettersson to Hughes to Besser to get Pettersson to Hughes. And I remember thinking, if this is the future of the Vancouver Canucks, look out hockey, because this is scary. And you know what? Those young kids, they come in and play they come in and play the Blues no matter what. They play them hard. Vancouver will not be overlooked by the St. Louis Blues, Kipper.
Or
I'll guarantee that.
intimidated.
So
I don't think
no, no,
intimidated either. And
neither team will be. I
that's
think
going to
it's going to be
be.
a heck of a series.
I think Vancouver has a
I do.
chance here.
Well,
And
you know what? If all the years, how about I throw this at you? Of all the years of a team that's young, naive, enthusiastic, however you want to describe it, lacking maybe big time experience, what's the most intimidating, Kipper? Is it first round when you got hordes of media that you'd never had before, the pressure of your home
yeah,
fans, the mistake that you make, everybody around town's talking about it, or the great play you make, everybody's talking about it, and now your head gets too high, and then or you get too low. Right now, is there not a Stanley Cup to be won by a team that lacks experience more than now?
I was
It's
saying
got to
the
be
other.
wide open. Yeah, it's wide
And
open.
we're not in the building. We can't hear how quiet it is during the game. But
Yeah,
that has to play into teams with lack of experience.
yeah.
It has to. It would feel like a July skate with your buddies at Chesswood Arena.
That's what it looked like with the Blues. I said that in the last game. I said, "This, you know what this looks like? It looks like a skate in August." And I'm like, "It is a
Yes.
skate in August," but it looks like us guys trying to get the gear on and going, I don't know if I want to stop and start yet. I don't know if I want to block a shot yet." Goalie says, actually, that's the good thing about the Blues. Their goaltending was outstanding in all the games. So that's a real good positive for them.
When you watched Binnington and the pressure that he had to take a last place team
Mm-hmm.
and turn it around, were you shocked as an ex-professional goaltender that this kid could come and do what he did?
Yeah, I mean, if I'd be lying, Kipper, if I said otherwise. Although I did watch him the last 2 training camps, especially the one previous to last year. I thought he was really, really good. We've got a goalie in the system named Ville Husso, a Finn, and he sort of climbed over top of Binnington in that depth chart, like as he'll be the next guy. And he's a really good goalie and real calm and a different look than Binny. But Binny came into camp and he was qualified in the summertime where I don't think Mike Liut represents him. And I don't think they expected Doug Armstrong to qualify him because he was it's funny way that he ended up half the year with Providence. The Bruins organization was an all-star for them and couldn't find a spot for the Blues. It's a great story. And it's a story too, Kipper, of a guy with about 19 layers of thick skin that said, to everybody else, he wanted to do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He wanted to raise that middle finger and say,
he wanted to stick it to them.
Yeah, like I can play, and I'm tired of being overlooked. And so, interestingly enough, Kevin McDonald's assistant general manager of the Blues, and I believe it was Kevin that got the text from Binnington from the minors. And I love this swagger that he's got. And all he said was, "I'm ready to go," or like something like that. And so he gets the call. They get into Philly, and everybody knows he's going to get the start. And keep in mind, he was recalled a couple of years earlier than that. He wore number 30, and it's his first recall to the NHL. He played one period. I remember interviewing him after the game on Fox Sports Midwest, asking him what it was like, and it's your first game, and you never know if you're going to see that again. And
never. Yeah.
So
it's going to be really hard.
Yeah. So who do we sign? Marty Brodeur.
Yeah.
In the practice facility, all of a sudden, number 30 moved from Binnington to Brodeur, and number 50, a new number, went to Jordan Binnington. And then the next year, I think it was, I'm pretty sure Marty Brodeur, as the assistant general manager, had to call him and send him down like 3 times. So, I mean, the kid went through enough. But that first game in Philly was something else. He made one save with his right toe that I was at ice level. Chris Therien, it was the analyst for the Flyers. And he and I looked at each other like, what a save that was. Like, it was incredible. And then he gets a shutout. And then I think the Blues needed that. Jake was good on the road.
Yeah.
Everybody struggled at home. They needed a goalie to come into home ice and dominate and have that swagger. And that's what Binnington really gave them, Kipper. On home ice, he was magnificent. The fans just loved him.
I'll be interested to see what kind of start St. Louis has and whether or not we're going to see the team of last year or the one that seems a little inconsistent. That series starts Wednesday night, 10:30 Eastern. Panger, we need to touch on a little bit of everything here. We won't go in so much detail because I'll keep you here all day. You know that. But let's start with tonight, Tuesday. We start the real playoffs here. 16 teams, Columbus and Tampa Bay. It's all about the shutdown for Columbus, led by Seth Jones, Werenski, Savard. They've done a terrific job here against Tampa. Can they do it again?
Well, they've got the defensive mindset. The challenge will certainly be about, if they trail in any games, it's hard for Columbus, I think, to come back. I know they proved that against Toronto, that they could come back from that one game, the 3-0 deficit. The test is really on Tampa more than it is on Columbus, I think, Kipper. I think everybody's talked about what Tampa did in the offseason. Julien BriseBois, he brings in Pat Maroon, and I know Patty. Patty's in a building like that that's very quiet. His energy level is very, very good. It's contagious, and he gets chirping. It doesn't matter what's going on. He keeps you alive, and so that's a good thing. Between Coleman and the additions that they have, they're trying to play a different game. This will be their test. Can they play that game against a team that's going to go nose to nose with them right now? Do they have an answer for Dubois? I am interested to see. I think that there's something neat about, I don't know, I'll go to an old teammate of mine. I think Brad Shaw, who's an associate coach with John Tortorella, I'm just going to say this right now. I can't believe that NHL teams don't knock on his door and at least give him interviews. Kipper, all this guy does is organize his defensive end. He can coach. He can prepare, and he and Torts work really well together. They've done
a terrific job.
So I'm interested to see as well the tandem. You said Werenski and Seth Jones, and I think it was it might have been Cassie Campbell showing it the other night, the one-on-one that they play, more of a zone with everybody else, but one-on-one with them going up against the other team's best players.
Yeah.
Their sticks are so good, and they're such good skaters.
And they're big men who can move.
Yes,
the lateral movement.
Close in on people so quickly. It's I love the way they're defending. Everybody talks about their offense. I love the way they're defending. I think Seth Jones is kind of playing like Colton Parayko last year. Smothering all over you. So
he was fantastic too.
And the one thing about Kucherov is he gets frustrated. And when he gets frustrated, his shifts end up a little shorter than normal. And and then you can see it with him, and so it's not. I don't think it's hard to see whether or not he's in the game or not in the game. And if they can get him out of the game, push him out of the game, then they've got a really good chance here.
I'm hearing the word setback when it comes to Steven Stamkos, which is not a good word to use when you're in the playoffs here. So I don't expect him to play, quite frankly. And if he does,
even if he does, Kipper, I mean, that's a tough one. You're over 150 days out, even longer than that for Stammer, and to jump
surgery
right into it. Oh my goodness! I know I've seen Vladdy Tarasenko come off, and he was actually ready to return on March 15th for the Blues, and he still hasn't found that game yet. What it takes, the little parts of the game, the stops and starts, the taking a hit, the comfort of doing that. So that'll be a tough one for Stammer. The other thing too, Kipper, about Stammer, he's a shooter. This ice on both sides doesn't look real good.
It doesn't.
So, the first 10 minutes, I think the puck lays flat. Last 10 minutes, it doesn't. As it goes on, probably the first 7 minutes of the second period, it lays flat. And then the third, maybe the first 5. And otherwise, it's a mucking and grinding game. So I'm not sure if that bodes well for Stammer as well.
The other thing I did hear is that that Hedman might not be as bad as what appeared to be an ankle injury, a high ankle sprain.
That's a tough one, huh?
Frustration on him, but someone told me don't be surprised if he gives it a chance here, a go to see what he can do as early as game 1 or game 2. Maybe they sit him out and try him on Thursday. Will remain to be seen, but health is an issue for Tampa, and maybe Columbus can capitalize on that. Okay, I want to move on to Calgary and the Stars. You are one of the top guys when it comes to the Western Conference. You know these teams. You've seen them time and time again through broadcasting with Fox. Dallas, we also know another team that's kind of saved their stars a little bit. Seguin, I'm told, is expected to make it a go. Whatever he's dealing with isn't as serious as perhaps maybe what Stamkos is. So he should play. Calgary's coming off a pretty emotional win against Winnipeg. How do you see this thing shaping up?
Very much so. I was preparing for Calgary because if the Blues won, they were going to face Calgary in the first round. So I was breaking down Calgary's power play and their entries and focusing on Matthew Tkachuk. There's a lot of game with Matthew Tkachuk that I really like, Kipper. And I mean, he's not afraid to get in the front of that net on Ben Bishop or Anton Khudobin. He's not afraid to battle with Klingberg and Heiskanen. He's going to set his ways right off the hop. And so pushing him outside that crease is going to be difficult. But the other part I saw about it was is just the interchangeable parts that Calgary uses. And now that Johnny Gaudreau looks like he's more engaged now, it was disappointing to see him play in the regular season, Kipper. There were so many nights I was like, wow, where'd the little fella go? You know me, I cheer for the little guys. And I'm like, where'd it go? Where'd the spirit go for him? But it looks like he's come back and he's moving the puck a lot better, and they're moving the puck in a big way. And so there's
power play's not an issue here, Panger, for him and Monahan, but they are going to have to really learn how to fight through 5-on-5. That's the issue for me here. Is
great chances 5-on-5. Yeah.
Can these guys get really dirty? And we've seen Gaudreau with his skill go to those places. But to your point, this season we never saw it. And I still have some concern. When you lose Scheifele and Patrick Laine, come on. But when now you're up against some big boys, hints on Dallas. Like Dallas has got, I think, like great skill players like Hintz and Miro Heiskanen you just mentioned. It's only a matter of time before the rest of the hockey world find out how good these guys are.
And they've got a good check-in line as well. I think a guy that is not getting enough credit for the Selke is the best defensive centerman, because I know that he gets the heavy matchups, and that's Radek Faksa. I mean, he plays with Blake Como on one side and Cogliano on the other, and they do get the heavy 5-on-5 matchups, and I think they do a phenomenal job. You've mentioned Rope Hintz, Gurianov's, he was their leading goal scorer. Jamie Benn, obviously he knows how to. I think he's very, very good in a 7-game series at trying to cut off the head of the snake. That's one of the things that I've noticed with them. The Blues have played them in 2 7-game series, so you get to see an awful lot about these guys. Jamie Benn's not there. He's not there all the time. But when he has to be there, it's bang.
Yeah.
It's a big hit here or there. It's a play in front of the net, or it's after the whistle where he just tries to get you unsettled, maybe see if you'll take a bad penalty. He tests a lot of players. He's savvy that way. And then then you got Radulov. So there's some players with a lot of experience in Dallas, and I think they'll test the emotions of Calgary. If Calgary gets untangled and starts taking bad penalties, then a veteran team like Dallas, I think, will be off and running. I think that'll be a big key to this game.
How about Talbot here? Not tested against Winnipeg,
No.
just real good though, real good, real steady, real dependable. Now,
Yeah,
are
real
you
good.
surprised that he grabbed it and held on to it so much here?
He's done it in the past in short spurts. Yeah, you know what? I think it's great. I think his calmness in the net is important. I think this is a different animal, though. I think Dallas is a hard team to play against. Their offense comes from a lot of different areas. Big save Dave Riddick, to me, Kipper, is maybe a better goalie in battling shots from the point where there's a lot of screens and a lot of traffic. I think Talbot's really good at just that on the rush. He's very calm. He's in position, doesn't overmove. So they have different assets. But it wouldn't surprise me, at one point if we don't see both goaltenders in Calgary. Between Heiskanen and Klingberg, Lindell a little bit.
Yeah.
They get pucks through from their point. So if your goalie's not finding them, if he doesn't fight through that traffic in front, if he's not aggressive, then a lot of these long shots are going to end up in the net. So that's where it's going to be a challenge, I think, for Talbot.
We'll keep an eye on that for sure. And want to move on to the prime time tonight because we got Hurricanes and the Bruins, Chicago and Vegas, the rematch. Are we forgetting in the 4-game sweep in the conference final last year that it wasn't as bad as it looked in a sweep, and Tuukka Rask was that friggin' good?
Tuukka Rask is pretty good, isn't he?
Oh, but he went to another level last year.
I think Carolina was, they not spent, because I still think they played well, and I still think they had good opportunities.
Yeah, they did have good chances.
Yeah, they did. Their game, Carolina, their game on the rush, their game, they're good. They're just flat out good. So Tuukka Rask, and Yarrow, I mean, their goaltending's been spectacular. So I think that sometimes a 4-game sweep, some team can just, get to a point where they just don't have any more bite left in them, no more magic left in them.
Yeah.
But I think this will be a lot different animal, a lot different. Vegas, Chicago is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. Let me just one more point on Boston, okay?
Yeah,
because we watched them and they were horrific in this, whatever you want to call.
They were inconsistent, like St. Louis.
Exactly like St. Louis.
Yeah.
So you got an experienced team now, and I'm just wondering if they've got to look themselves in the mirror and say, okay, do we want to play this? Are we interested in this thing or not?
I would say yes. I was so impressed, and in fact, I voted for Bruce Cassidy and Craig Brewer. I think going to the final and coming back again and being the top teams says a lot about the coaches.
Yeah. And then you're putting a bubble, though. Then you're putting a bubble.
Then you're putting a bubble. But I think what they did during the regular season was absolutely impressive, and their hunger was impressive. But I think for those teams, Kipper, that are prepared to play 7-game series and know their opponent and have poured over the video and get into individual matchups for a potential full 7 games, I think that's where you see the best of the heavy teams. So I'm gonna go on a limb right now and say that it was an aberration the way that the Boston Bruins performed. I think you're going to see a competitive Stanley Cup caliber team. I just do. Well, those kind of players don't go away. Now you're sitting in meetings and your mind's drifting. We're playing this team, Washington, for this game, but it means something, but it doesn't really mean something. So you're kind of up and down. But now you're playing a team and you're like, we're going to focus on this, and this, I think everybody gets just absolutely dialed in. And I think the top teams will get back to being dialed in.
Okay, you mentioned heavy teams. Let's go to Vegas.
Great team.
Reeves, Carrier, Cousins. That's your 4th line, right?
Yeah.
Pretty darn heavy. And yet you look at Chicago and you're like, did we really kind of write off Jonathan Taves a little bit as
Yeah.
a go-to guy and a guy that can really lead? I got to tell you that Jonathan Taves against Edmonton took me to another level in terms of the respect that I have for him, and it was already pretty high, Panger.
Very high. He's like they played the Blues in the first exhibition game, and all of their training camp, Jeremy Colleton, their head coach, he had DeBrincat up there with Taves and Saad. And I talked to Troy Murray and Ed Olchuk, that they do radio and TV work, obviously, for Chicago, old teammates of mine. And I said, so what's any changes going on? And it was just an exhibition game, so it wasn't like you're diving in deep. He says, yeah, it's really odd. He's going to put Kubalik up there. He's had DeBrincat up there the entire camp. I'm like, all right, that's interesting enough. By Kubalik, I've just a really good hockey player. And he was the best player on the ice. I mean, he had about 6 shots on goal. I think it was a 4-0 win for Chicago, and they just continued to roll on. But I really think having a big body on the left of Jonathan Taves was really important. And I thought Saad played very, very well. Kind of a quieter player that he's not always engaged for me, but when he is, you go, wow, man, he was awesome. And so I think that really helped. That was a great line. Whether or not their D can hold up, I don't know about that. All I know is that the Vegas Golden Knights have every part of it. I mean, I'm a big fan of the way they play, the way they hound pucks, the way they forecheck. You forgot about Pierre-Edouard Bellemare as well. I mean, he plays a lot on that fourth line, and that's allowed Cousins to kind of move around a little bit. And then Alex Tuch now is on fire after an injury-riddled season. He looks really, really good. They got a lot of weapons. I think they're one of the favorites for the entire Stanley Cup.
All right, let's just touch on a little bit of the remaining series. I don't want to get too heavy on Islanders or Caps or Arizona and Colorado because we are running out of time, and okay. I know you're a busy guy. But out of all of them,
because I'm playing
East,
golf today, is that why?
Yes. No, you are playing golf. Don't lie. Don't lie. Yeah. I know you. You're correct. But is really Philly the team to beat right here, right now?
They're the hottest team.
Yeah.
Certainly in the East. And they were one of the hottest teams down the stretch.
24-1 in their last 25 games.
Absolutely amazing. Well, let's start out with the goalie. Now it's a change thing, but Carter Hart does a great impersonation of Carey Price, in my opinion. Just so smooth and calm and sees the puck coming at him and doesn't overreact. And that's number one. So they've got the confidence there. Their D are playing a good, solid game. They're getting, I like Philly. I like the way they're playing. I didn't at the beginning of the year. I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work. Even on the coaching staff, they brought in Alain Vigneault, but they brought in Therrien and they brought in Mike Yeo, all 3 head coaches. And I'm like, I wonder how that's going to work. They're used to being head coaches, but it's all worked seamlessly. I've been pretty impressed with them.
And Islanders, can Barry Trotz shut down the neutral zone? The what do you call it? Left wing lock, right wing lock, whatever it is, it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's got such good variations. Same with Columbus a lot. You can see a 1-3-1. You can see a bit of a almost the old neutral zone trap at times, and then at other times you see a really aggressive attacking team, and so I think it puts the other team on their heels a little bit. But I mean, the mentality of the Islanders, as you know, is to clamp it down, is to close in on people, is to make it difficult, and don't give them time and space. And there's no better coach, or very few, that are as good as Barry Trotz. So their preparation is going to be next to none. And Farley looks like he's in good shape back there. And I think that's going to be one of those series where you just watch it for the first couple of games, and then by games 4, 5, 6, and 7, then you're going to see. I think then you're going to see a old flat out 7-game series war. In my opinion, I think it's going to be a good series.
And we assume Colorado. Can Arizona win 2 games? Can they win 2 games?
I tell you what. Yeah, I think they can. I think people underestimate them. The Blues had fits with them. The Blues had 2 extended streaks this year that were snapped by Rick Tocchet in Arizona. I tell you what, Garland. It's like nobody gives these guys respect. But they play hard. They've formulated a fourth line. They've got now you've got a little bit there going with Kessel. Clearly, Colorado is a team for me. I love them. I love every part of their game. I think they've really matured. I think they can defend. I think they've got obviously Cale Makar on the offensive side of it, but the big boys, as long as they stay healthy, they can run anybody over, especially when they don't put Landeskog on that top line and they diversify it a little bit. So I've got certainly Colorado's the favorite in this one, but all I'm saying is don't underestimate the Arizona Coyotes. I just think they surprise you with how steady they are and how resilient they are. And I think that's a great compliment to Rick Tocchet.
Okay, and we can't get out of talking about the playoffs without mentioning the Montreal Canadiens. And you talked about lack of respect, and that's never been the case with Carey Price. Everybody talked about Pittsburgh and Montreal being, but you got Carey Price. But it has to be more than that. And you talked about coaching, and we talked about Barry Trotz. How about Julian, Luke Richardson, and Kirk Muller, and the ability to know what you have and to deal with it. And at times, and I tweeted this the other night, sometimes it's a little difficult to watch stars like Crosby and Malkin look ordinary and not like these superhuman hockey players, which we've seen in the past. But Montreal did that to them. That may be some bad ice, but regardless, Montreal's playing and Pittsburgh's not.
I remember talking to Kirk Muller. A season ended, and he was packing up his stuff, and he was going to the cottage around Kingston, and he's like talking about different teams. And Kirky always loves to hot stove it about hockey. And next thing you know, he sends me a text, says we're back in. And he was so excited to get that they're the 12th team, they're back in. And I think there's an enthusiasm there from a guy like Kirk and Luke, and obviously Julian is the main guy behind the bench. But I think as a team, and I saw this year, they beat the Blues 5-2, 5-2 this year. So this is where I look at some teams that other people might not give them a lot of respect, and I turn around and I go, wow, they really played the Blues well. They had a great game plan. They didn't let the Blues play a heavy game. They moved the puck. It was like east, west, out of the zone. And they were gone, and it was hard to catch them, if you know what I mean. And so now I see this series, and obviously Carey, but Shea Weber's healthy. You get some players back, and you get some guys that say, we can do this, and you play that underdog role, especially against Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh, and now they've got a little bit of confidence. I'm not saying this is 2010, when Jaro Halak and Montreal started knocking off teams, but there's a little bit of swagger here again.
There is, no question about it.
Again, I don't think this is a time to be letting your guard down against anybody. I mean, if there's a time, as we mentioned before, to go in there and surprise teams, it would be right now.
And we spoke earlier about just a quiet building and who's at favor, and
who's got the energy,
and who's got the energy, and it's easier to defend than it is to create. It is.
Yep, it is. Yep. Shut her down. And if the ice gets bad halfway through the game, and you've got a good defending system where everybody knows whether you're trapping, whether you're a 1-2-2, whether you're 1-3-1, those are important elements to frustrating a skilled team that's expecting plays to be made. And Panger, I agree with you.
Great job,
thanks, buddy. Thanks, Skipper.
Awesome. Now, listen, we talked about how much fun we've had over the years working together. I had my buddy Jordan, who's producing for me, pull up a bit of a tape here that, we took advantage of your great sense of humor and your great attitude over at Sportsnet on a couple of occasions. But this one happened to be one of my favorite moments with you, me, Elliot, I think Kelly Rudy, and George Stroumboulopoulos, who I think is one of the best broadcasters, and he did an amazing job on this and what he was able to do. And for those of you that watch on a nightly basis, not everything's live, so sometimes you got to pre-tape a few things. And in this one instance, we had to pre-tape with the very lovely and talented Darren Pang, who was on location, and we decided to play a bit of a practical joke on him. Now, at the time, we kind of questioned Ken Hitchcock and a few of his means, preparing. So we faked we faked going live with Darren Pang, and and George took it off of Sean Reynolds and opened up what Darren Pang thought was a live hit with the words, Darren, we've been watching you all season long, and one thing we want to be clear is you are not a big fan of the way Ken Hitchcock manages his team. Now,
you guys were the worst.
Just imagine now, the look on Darren Pang's face when he is the lead broadcaster for the St. Louis Blues. And George says, you are not a big fan of your head coach.
And Kipper, and you've got to say this because, our good friend, like Hitch is a good man that treats people well. And he's got to know, you guys were just absolutely busting me on this.
Busting you.
And it wasn't anything we were talking about. And all of a sudden I'm like, well,
oh, no. It was the backstroke. We're going to play it now, but keep an eye on the backstroke and the pause.
Tough right here.
On the backstroke. Jordan, do we have that? Can you tee it up for us? All right, he's going to get it ready. But that to me, Hanger, in a nutshell, is the camaraderie that we take out of the dressing room, and we tried to give it to people that worked around us that didn't have the luxury of getting your balls busted on a daily basis in the dressing room.
And they do. They get busted all the time.
Okay, here we go, Panger.
All right, thank you very much, Sean Reynolds. From the other side of the ring, now let's bring in Darren Pang, who's covering this game. Darren, we've been watching you all season long on Wednesday Night Hockey, and one thing that we know, to be clear, you're not a huge fan of the way Ken Hitchcock manages the team. How do you think he's handling the pressure in Game 1?
I think he's done a really nice job. I think he's got to give credit to his team. They are sick, aren't they?
Oh, his face.
His face was great.
That was awesome.
This is for real.
Well done. Well played. You guys are beauties.
You guys are sick. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Hey, buddy.
That's great stuff, buddy. That's great. I love it.
Hey, listen, I can't thank you enough for stopping by. We know you are busy. Terrific job on St. Louis, your Fox station.
Thanks,
following the Blues. We'll see if the champs act like the champs here the rest of the way. If so, back-to-back cups as a broadcaster still looks awfully good, eh?
No, that would be nice. I thank these players every day that we had so much fun, Kipper, doing it and being part of the team and seeing the city of St. Louis celebrate. And I said, well, why don't we do it again? We'll have a couple of rings here. So, you know what? Defending's not easy. You know that. But playing your game and going down the way that you want to go down is the key. And these Blues aren't going to lay down. Whoever wins the Stanley Cup, they're going to have to go through the St. Louis Blues, in my opinion.
Panger, you talked about Steve Larmer should be in the Hall of Fame. I got a chance to spend the last little while with a Hall of Fame broadcaster, buddy.
No. Easy there, Kipper, but it's been a pleasure. Thank you,
no. It may be coming one day.
I'm glad you're doing what you're doing, bud. Keep up the great work. Okay.
You got a great resume there, bud. And I
Thanks,
look at other people that have been great representation in terms of ambassadors and hockey and broadcasting. You're up there with all of them, buddy.
Kipper, I really thank you though. I appreciate it.
Enjoy the rest of the way, and I'm gonna have you back again here soon. Okay.
I would really like that, big guy.
All right, Darren Pang,
really
everybody.
Like
Great.
Okay, big boy.
Great job filling in for Doug MacLean today. By the way,
you know what? Well, I tried to do that on Wednesday Night Hockey as well. I just couldn't get a word in edgewise.
I don't think Doug can come back tomorrow and live up to what you brought us here today.
No, we had fun with Mac, didn't we?
We did.
We had a lot of fun. That was
okay.
Great times, buddy.
Listen,
great times.
You're always welcome on the Real Kipper at Noon show, pal.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
Okay, Darren Pang, everybody. How great was that? And what an amazing sport Darren Pang is, that he could have as much fun being the butt of a joke as if it was on somebody else. And with that guy, I can honestly say, and don't tell Doug MacLean that I'm saying this, but those type of guys, they don't have bad days. They just find different ways to get the most out of life. And sometimes it isn't the best of days, but this is our motto, and it's been mine for a long time: misery loves company. So when you can surround yourself with good people, good energy, do it. Go find yourself a Darren Pang that can make you feel good, even when you're not having the best of days. So thank you, Darren, once again for joining us, helping us tee up the games tonight. We go in 3 hours here, folks, a little under 3 hours, and we've got Columbus and Tampa Bay starting it at 3 p.m. Eastern. And I'm going to keep an eye on for Tortorella in this series. And, you watch him, and there's so much to love about him as a coach, and squeezing every last drop out. We mentioned in the interview with Darren Pang, a guy like Mike Keenan. Some of the greats have done that, and they push the envelope and they challenge you. And Pierre-Luc Dubois on the bench got challenged in front of the whole hockey world and only answered with a hat trick. Now, you buy into the Tortorella had nothing to do with that, or you do think that maybe he pushed the right buttons to squeeze that out of him. But Tortorella is that type of guy where there's so much to love about him. And again, when you watched it, the conclusion of the Toronto series, I find it, very noble of him to stand up for Sheldon Keefe. Now, Keefe, as we know, publicly is taking a lot of heat, still is, but he had to come out there and certainly stand up for a fellow coach, and I'm okay with that. Absolutely, I'm okay with that, and it shows the side of Tortorella where the man feels, empathy for Sheldon Keefe, empathy for, rescuing dogs. And we know that's well documented. The guy loves animals. He's rescued dogs. He's rescued horses. That's the type of guy he is. But then every once in a while, there's a side of him where you go, don't be such a jerk. And we see it in his post-conference media, press conferences with the media. And there's no question. I'm like you, Torts. I'm a sore loser, man. I don't like it. But to watch you with some of your comments reminds me of the kid that you play road hockey with, where if he didn't like anything, he'd take his net and go home. And you're like, oh my God, did that guy just do that? What? Because what? He thought the ball went in. He thought, someone got tripped and play continued. But Torts, when he is a poor sport, he takes his net and he goes home in those press conferences. And I like the fact that the NHL has given him a little bit of leeway here, and they gave a lot to Paul Maurice. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget how hard Paul Maurice came down. But guess what? Sometimes you don't have to sanitize it completely. These guys, Tortorella, Paul Maurice, they've got personalities, they've got opinions, and it kind of adds to the whole story. But when Tortorella is really disrespectful, and I've played both sides. I'm a hockey guy. I've lived it as a player, but I've also lived it on the other side when it comes to the media and watching people needing to have to do their jobs and having deadlines and having a boss and trying to help create the story. And Tortorella and those coaches do that in the press conference. They can kind of set the tone on where someone in the media who doesn't necessarily know as much about hockey as others, they need those comments. And I want to see if that continues, or if somebody got to Tortorella and say, hey, back off a little bit. You got a good thing going right now. Everybody talks about how you outcoached Sheldon Keefe and the decisions that you made and how you look like a genius now with Pierre-Luc Dubois and wanting him to be a star. And that looks like it's going pretty good. Heck, you might even end up getting a new contract out of this. That's how good it's going for you. But we will see that, and it'll start in a few hours, 3 p.m. Eastern. We also have Calgary and the Stars at 5:30 p.m. We believe that Tyler Seguin will play. Whatever's bothering him will not be enough to keep him out, but is manageable. And then prime time, Hurricanes and Bruins. Much like St. Louis, we just spoke to Darren Pang. Where are the Bruins in all of this? Right? Where's the production line? Where's the scoring here? We didn't see any of it in the last 2 weeks. And Chicago and Vegas, everybody has Vegas, much like most had Edmonton, but they have Hall of Fame players, top 100 in history. That says I'm not quite ready to hand Vegas anything just yet. And Patrick Kane, kind of a quiet guy in the first round. I think he could heat up here and make things very interesting. Doug MacLean will be by tomorrow. I promise you, we'll bring back Doug. He'll be refreshed. Maybe he got a round of golf in. And Wednesday, we got the Islanders, the Caps, starting at 3 p.m. Wednesday also introduces us to Arizona and Colorado. And then prime time, we've got the Montreal Canadiens and the Philadelphia Flyers. And at 10:30, Vancouver and Darren Pang's St. Louis Blues. So we mentioned constantly on this show, we love your comments. I want to see some comments. What do you think of Darren Pang? I want Darren Pang on this show a lot more. I really do. He's one of my favorites. He's hilarious. You let me know in your comments what you thought of Darren Pang coming on the Real Kipper at Noon show. Been following comments for the last little while. There's still some Leaf fans not very happy. There is Ganorama, who commented the other day to me that you never change a winning lineup. Sheldon Keefe, what are you doing? You came in with all the momentum. It might not be wrong. I buy into keeping a winning lineup. I don't like messing with that. Who else have we got out here? We've got Evkin. Evkin's been around a long time, and I love it. Thank you, Evkin. I think you might be even overseas. I'm not sure exactly where you are, but you've been around every day, and we certainly notice. And I love the fact that you value experience over the young legs. And I can't necessarily disagree with you. And that's why we have to give the Boston Bruins the benefit of the doubt here, at least until we see probably 10 minutes, 15? How long do you need before we know if the Boston Bruins are back? Hey, it's not always just the great comments. There's Ron Evans, who commented the other day, and he said, "Who gave this guy a show?" Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. And I'm sitting there going, Ron, linemovement.com, i3 Interactive, our publicly traded company, they gave me this job, and I'm thankful for it. I'm not sure if you are, but my family is. I can pay a few bills, and I am very thankful for it. So, Ron, keep those comments coming, even if they are a little constructive criticism. Hey, I played on Mike Keenan's team, Paul Holmgren's team, Pat Burns for a little bit. Okay, come on. If I can't handle constructive criticism, who can? All right, we're good for today. That's jam-packed, folks. All day long, Darren Pang. And now we got you all teed up for your first official round of the 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs. For all of you joining constantly, not just Evkin, but everybody else, thanks you for being loyal already. And if you're not subscribed to our YouTube channel, get on board. Great that you're also listening on Apple Podcast. If you can do a ratings and review, let us know what you think. It really helps out the show a lot. It helps myself, Doug, Jordan, Joe, the whole crew, Michael Bannock Jr., We really love the feedback. We want you to feel comfortable coming here every day for all your hockey news. For Nick Kypreos on Real Kipper at noon, thanks for